Yes, good evening. My name is Anthony Catalano. I'm an amateur radio operator. My call sign is WW2W, and I'm the Vice President of the Kings County Radio Club. And I'm here tonight to give a little demonstration, a basic demonstration on CW and also the various keys involved in, CW, continuous wave, really call it Morse code in our use of these devices. There are a lot of modes out now aside from Morse code, which a lot of people think of it as an older mode, but it's very efficient in being able to get through the noise, and it's also, more importantly, much more easy to build a transmitter for Morse code than anything that is voice. Okay. I became a ham in 1987, and I have a lot of cards even from back then where I was operating Morse code, and with 100 watts or less, I was able to contact Australia, Russia again, Italy, and France, and Midwest somewhere. And really, just with a wire antenna, you could make contacts that far. You don't really need to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on an antenna when using Morse code. There are some people who transmit only 5 watts or less, and we call that QRP, which designates that you're using low power. And some hams just operate using low power. You're allowed to operate up to 1,500 watts as a ham if you're the highest level class, but a lot of hams don't feel they have to use that much power on Morse code. When people initially learn Morse code, they use many ways of learning it. I learned using listening on the air and also buying the old cassette tapes. You could buy them at various speeds. When we used to have to take we practice to learn these various speeds to get the various classes of licenses, but now you don't need to, they don't test you on Morse code anymore. So really now, if you're learning it and using it, it's a thing you're doing just out of love and just for appreciation of the mode of operation. And basically, Morse code really is a digital mode because you're turning something on and off, which really is ones and zeros if you think about it.
Binary.
It's a binary, on and off. And when Morse code, or international code is called now, really was, and even on the railroad before radio, when they first implemented it, they were having it write down on pieces of tape, dashes and dots. But after a while, hearing the clicks and clacks of the machinery, you realize that people could actually listen, and they were able to tell by the noise of what the letters were that were being sent out. They could hear by the noises. So eventually, people were just able to listen to the clicks and clacks and write it down as they were hearing. For practicing, there are various ways that they would send Morse code. And when you're practicing, you hear the dashes and dots, and you'd write down what you're hearing. And the worst thing to do is actually write down a dash and a dot, or you have to listen to you pick up the patterns, and you're hearing the patterns, and you go directly to writing down the letter, or copying it in your mind after you get enough practice. A popular way to practice Morse code is in sending groups of 5 letters at a time. This is a very good way to really get hit with all these letters, because you really don't know what's coming next. You can't make sense out of it where you think another word is coming, and it's not a sentence. So you get like E, V, T, U, Q, P-R-U-G-H. So you would hear that in the Morse code and you would write it directly down. And if these look familiar to you, these types of groupings used to be sent by spies, where it was coded. All this junk here actually would mean something if you decode it. And this was sent across the Iron Curtain back and forth, to spies on both sides. This type of sending. This here is just plain text, where you just have sentences, bookshelves here and there, saw maps, pictures, hung upon, JPEGs, just gobbledygook sentences to practice with. And this one here is a conversation that would actually take place on ham radio. And the reason why I bring these three types up is because on the internet earlier today, I actually went on the British amateur radio site, and I downloaded about 10 samples of Morse code using the MP3 type of thing, where here's a sample. So you can download these files for free. This one happens to be at 12 words a minute. And you get...
Look about.
On there you get... it gives you a text file too, so you could copy it down and you could check yourself, via your printout. And it's pretty nice. It's all free on the internet. This is on the Great Britain radio site, and there are quite a few other sites where you can get free Morse code practice. And if you want to hear a faster speed, well, this is 18 words a minute. And you'll hear patterns, and you either write them down or copy them in your head. I could write down to 20 words a minute, but when you start going faster than that, I personally have trouble writing.
Bring up the speed. It's all right. I can copy it.
Yeah. This is 25 words a minute. Initially, when they first gave the Morse code test, it was only 5 words a minute. So you basically either knew it or you didn't. So it was easy to write down at 5 words a minute. Actually, the problem was it's 5 words a minute is so slow. If you, it's hard to pick up the patterns sometimes. It would be better if someone is sending 5 words a minute, but they're sending the individual letters maybe at 10, 12 words a minute with more spacing. You were able to hear the patterns better. And then to pick up your speed, what they do is they close the spaces so you're able to pick up speed without making the letters go faster. And on the newsletter, I'll put the link to where you can get these files. And these are the papers that go along with the files. And you can put that on any type of phone, like a smartphone, whatever. You can download them on there and play them. Howard into GOT has a Morse code machine. I believe there's also you can do Morse code practice on here as well. There's a random code.
You could actually speak to a station
and it does
have a conversation with you.
Synthesizes a QSO.
Yes, it does.
Conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very nice machine. This was made
mid-80s, mid to late 80s.
And you were able to set many modes and many
different practice sessions.
And has a tremendous amount of outputs on here.
Yeah.
It's a very versatile machine. It's still popular to this day.
Yeah.
And you can still pick up a used one on eBay. So, a very nice machine to start out with.
AEA Morse Machine MM3.
What was it?
It's an AEA Morse Machine MM3.
Yes. AEA Morse Machine MM3. M3. There you go. And you have a couple of memory banks here. Okay, that's cool. And I have something here that's similar, but it's very, very cheap. It's called a TIC-4, and this has two memories of 50 characters, which is very nice to use if you're operating on Morse code contest. Instead of sending the same thing every time, you just press a button and it will send it for you. So it'll keep your hand from getting carpal tunnel type of thing, getting atrophied. And when you want to send personalized information for the conversation, then you could use the key. This is a key where you're using two paddles on here. It's called an iambic here, but you could also use a straight key. You just press one button to go with dots and dashes. This particular key is from World War II, and it's called the J38 key, and it's extremely popular. And there's even a version of this with a clip that goes on the pilot's leg, and he's operating Morse code while he's flying. Yeah, and this key is made by Lionel Trains. Because during World War II, a lot of companies they were repurposed to make stuff, manufacture things for the war effort. So if you take this off, underneath you'll see the familiar Lionel Train symbol under there, the letter L. And this was when I got it, it was in bad shape. I restored it. It needs to be cleaned up a bit. I'll operate this in a minute. This is another iambic key made by MFJ. You can set the speeds. You could one side is dots and one side is dashes. If you're lefty or righty, or you prefer which side to be a dash and which side is a dot, you can also change that as well in here by rewiring. We have various. Some hams like to make a really compact setup to go out on the field, and they enjoy using very small Morse code keys. This one is again one side makes dots and one side makes dashes, and this one is a straight key. Just on off. I'm going to connect that in a minute. This box here is programmable. You could use it for an iambic key, or you could use it for the straight key. So there's I'm going to set it for use as a straight key. It's a memory P. Okay, I think it's set. There, and we'll see. Okay. I'm just using two clips to just for tonight, where I can just clip it onto any key I have here. You need two wires. Okay, so here you have the key, and it's just going to go on and off. I'll send the word smartphone. I mean, it's hard to hold it up with. That's the H, N, so, okay, well, that's the word smartphone, and if I'm holding it up, it's a bit difficult to do it like that, but usually when you're operating Morse code, you want the key fastened on a very sturdily. I have a stuff here, it's used to hang up stuff on a wall. It's cookie, it's very sticky. Usually you can stick it on most surfaces, and you can see this here. And now it's much easier to use. And that's again the word smartphone, probably at about maybe 12, 15 words a minute. Usually when you're sending Morse code, you want to send it Morse code out at the same speed you can receive. If you feel the person you're communicating with is sending it too fast, you send the letters Q, R, S, which tells him to go more slowly for you. And usually if you're sending out Morse code at 12 words a minute, even though the other person could send it 30, 40 words a minute, usually it's courtesy that he'll send it to you at the same speed. There are certain frequencies on ham radio where people just starting out on Morse code will tend to congregate in that one area so they can help each other out, and it's a good place to start off, and you won't feel intimidated. 7.112 is a popular slow speed frequency to operate on the 40 meter band, and a lot of even if you don't have your ham radio license, you can listen on there, and you'll be able. That's a nice place to practice receiving Morse code, and you'll get an idea of how beginners advance little by little, and you could also listen to other areas where they're sending faster. There's also another type of key, which is very unusual. A lot of old timers like to use this, and also people are really interested in using different types of keys. This is what's called a vibroplex, and it's purely mechanical. It works where principle of a reed with a weight on it, where the thing, to make the dots, it vibrates back and forth, and it makes contact in a certain area here. The dashes are made completely manually by pressing this one way, and you have total control over the length of the dashes, but the dots you have control over by moving these weights back and forth. When it goes back, you're sending it very fast. When it goes forward, and if you really want to slow it down even more, you just get a piece of clay, just stick it on there, and you can get you can make the dots go even slower, and you can adjust it to whatever speed you're comfortable at. It has a very unique sound. A lot of hams use this on 30 meters, which is between 10.100 and 10.5 you're allowed to operate on. I believe you have to be a general or above to operate on 30 meters. You're allowed to operate. Technically, you're allowed to operate Morse code anywhere on the ham bands. People may argue that point with you, and it's usually just a courtesy just to operate a certain mode within a certain area. But you really, if you take the FCC test, they always ask you where you're allowed to operate CW, and it's almost, I believe it's practically anywhere, unless you don't want to interfere with another mode if someone else is operating on there. So, but that's the case of any mode. You don't want to interfere with some other ham who's using that frequency. I'm going to connect this in a minute, and you hear how strange it sounds. So I have to program this back to being able to work with a paddle using dots and dashes. So there's you have to go. Okay, we'll see if that worked. I don't know which side it went to, but I'm going to connect this to the vibroplex key, and we'll see if we get that going. Okay, it's working here. Now you see the dots. It's going pretty good there. Now as you move this back, you can see how fast it'll go. And the other side, pressing the other side of the key will give you dashes. And you can make them as long as short as you want. If you want, you could even use it as a stray key.
Good song.
Oh, sorry. Oh, it's the KCRC 2-meter net. that was supposed to be holding. That's our alarm.
Okay.
Dismissed.
Gotta have some evidence.
It's a Tuesday, and usually we hold our nets at this time, so no one's calling me to interfere. It's our alarm. Sorry about that. I am prepared. See that? So, coincidence. So, as you move the weight out, it'll go at a slower speed. What I was showing you before is that if you want, you could even use this as a straight key if you just press on one side. It's just making contact on and off. I'm going to put this back to slow speed by putting the clay on there. And I'll try to send something. It takes a bit of practice to use this key because it's very strange, and you really should practice holding it in a way where you don't strain your hand after a while. I'm going to send the word data sheet. Okay. It's fast. Wait. Okay. It's data sheet. I think I might have messed up the T, but it takes a bit of practice. This key is very, very heavy, the base. And the reason why it needs to be heavy is because when you're forming the dots, you may have to put some energy into it to get the thing going. It's holding it pretty well. And a lot of these, like I said, sometimes you want to put it on a surface where the key may not slip. And when you make a mistake, sometimes a lot of hams send a lot of dots just to show that they messed up on something, and it'll just continue on that word. It might do, if I make a mistake, it might go like this, and it just continue with your letters. Sometimes it changes from conversation to conversation, where the two people having the conversation may mess up on a particular letter, and they get used to each other by communicating with each other when something is sent incorrectly.
That's just to acknowledge that you know you made a mistake?
Yeah, just letting the other person know that you meant it, especially if you're sending the wrong number on something. If you send a 4 instead of a 5, you let them know that you might do.
You need to redo.
You might go, all of a sudden you send something totally out of time. Did like that. And then you just pick up again from where you left off. This is put in a cheap box. When I bought the chip, we're talking about something less than $10 to make this really. A cheap piezo, a couple of connectors, push button, and you have 2 memories in there. And just to get this little box going. A TIG-4 chip. This is a very simple programming on here. There's only one button, and you use your key to do the setup. And you put the memories. That was a timeout. You use your key to program the thing, so it'll memorize whatever speed you're sending it in, and you have memory A and B, and it'll send that out. So if you want to do CQ, your call sign. You could just have that in memory, and you could just keep sending that until you get a response. Then the next time you hit it's a button you press. The next time you hit the key, then you're sending manually, and you're communicating with that person. So in conclusion, I would like to say, I think a lot of hams should get, if they're not involved in CW, they should get, at least get to know it in a rudimentary way, make a couple of conversations with it, even if you don't have your own Morse code set up in your place. Maybe you want to, if you could invite yourself to a ham's shack where you could see that they're set up, and you could maybe make a few conversations, under their wing, and they'll, help you get your feet into it, getting into it. And I think it's a very interesting mode, and you'll find yourself, a lot of CW's operators are usually very good with exchanging real QSL cards, not the eQSL ones. So it's nice to have what we call a wallpaper on your wall to collect, and they usually sometimes they even even send you as a QSL card pictures of their Radio Shack so you can see how they're set up. Thanks again, Tony. See you later, very 73. I'm sure we'll meet you again. I must have sent him photos. I really like the 2 photos you sent me. I wish I were there and had my station set up on the riverbank also. This is when I used to live near the water. I had an antenna up on the 6th floor, and I used to make conversations, get contacts like crazy. So it was a good setup. Now I'm in an apartment on the 3rd floor, but even with my antenna just clamped to the fire escape on the 3rd floor, you can still make make a lot of contacts. And on Morse code, you could even reach further than on sideband or AM, because the efficiency of the signal to noise ratio is much better. I believe it's on sideband. I believe is 4 times more efficient, and I think CW again is I think 3 dBs or 6 dBs more efficient than sideband itself. You're using a much more narrow, usually using a very narrow filter to receive Morse code, so you're
60 dBs would be
around there. You're clamping out the noise on either side, especially if you're using a narrow filter.
60 dBs is 180.
Yeah, so it's almost like getting a bigger antenna by operating on Morse code. So that's another reason why it's a very interesting mode to get involved with. I even have a 10-meter walkie-talkie, and there's a switch on the bottom to use Morse code. And I have a dummy load on here right now, but you would press the button, and there's a tiny button on here on the top where you do your Morse code, or you can plug in a key. In that case, I would it's plugged in here. I would plug this into here, and then I plug in my key, and I could operate Morse code from this walkie-talkie with an antenna put on top. And this is only 2 watts, but like I said, 2 watts in Morse code would be much more efficient than putting this on voice and speaking in here. You know, it's a timeout. So it's a 10 meter single sideband and a CW transceiver. This is 10 meters, and they're pretty popular right now because the sunspot cycle is getting, it's peaking up again every 11 years. That happens with the sun. So, again, in closing, I hope anyone watching this video, becomes more involved in Morse code, either on your own or through a club, and you can pick up a lot of equipment very cheaply. And your older radios, especially ones that only operate Morse code sideband, you can pick them up also a lot cheaper than all mode rigs, and they really it's really fun to get first involved with ham radio on Morse code, as well as you using your handy talkie on the repeaters and so forth. So we will put links up on our website. It's QSL.
QSL.net/KC2RC.
KC2RC. We'll put links on there, and I'll put a link to where you can get these MP3 files, and you can get them started on Morse code. So thank you for watching this video, and 73's.
Let me just do a quick pan. Everyone in our meeting.
Sorry I don't speak loud. My voice dries up after a while also.